Hello and welcome to another episode of JP's Daily Commute. And today we have the 2022 YZF R7 from Yamaha. So we're gonna ride from my work here at Westfield High School all the way to my home at the Energy Corridor in Houston, Texas. So if you're interested in the R7 from Yamaha, well, stick around and see, because this video is for you. And there it is, the 2022 YZF R7 from Yamaha. And well, it's a lovely looking thing. That's what she is. So she's a little dirty today, but Blue Demon or Blue Demon is a great motorcycle to ride from work to home or from home to work. But as we discussed earlier, we do not have time to record in the morning because, well, it's what? When we record, if we record in the morning, it'll be dark, and we want to make sure that, well, the content is clear in the day. It's a little bit cloudy today. Hopefully it does not rain. It's only a 15% chance of that. So let's get going. So I already discussed in a previous video, why did I buy the YZF R7? So I was looking for something, because I've always been a fan of Yamahas, but I've also been a fan of Suzuki's for a while, and I was looking for an SV650 with full fairings. That was the bike that I was hoping to get, but that bike does not exist. What Yamaha came up with was this one. So it's the SV650 and the MT-07 have been natural rivals for a while. We'll discuss that in a while, because on this portion of the daily commute is when I like to talk about suspension, because this is a bumpy road. Now, the suspension on this bike is not great, but it's not as terrible as I thought originally, because when I first bought the bike, the rear suspension, it was pretty terrible. It was very bouncy. It was a pogo stick. But now that it's settled, I've had this bike now for almost 10,000 miles. Put 10,000 miles on the clock on 1 year. And this is the bike I ride the least, I think, because it's well, it's a little bit uncomfortable. But the suspension is now set, and it's a lot better. The suspension in the front is pretty good, especially when you're hitting the corners on the Twisties and you're giving this bike the beans. Well, the front suspension is great. It was the back one that, well, it was pretty bouncy, and I tried adjusting it and tried doing different things. If it's too soft, it's just it does not work at all. So I put it in the hardest setting that I could, and it was too bouncy. So what I did is, well, I left it like that, and now that it's set, now that the suspension is set, it's not that terrible. So you can hit the Twisties and you can lean on the tire, and the suspension is going to hold any imperfection from the road pretty well. Problem is, if there's a big bump when you're riding hard, well, I had an issue where the suspension sent me flying, and I was almost out of the bike. If I didn't have, because I was not holding on really tight with my knees, so it's a good thing that I carry this tailback, because it saved my hide. That's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, this bike's suspension is, well, for everyday commuting is great. because it's a little bit on the softer side, but it also can handle like a track day, I'm pretty sure, because it's good on the Twisties. But it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest suspension. If you are buying this bike as a track bike, that's the first thing you should consider, because the brakes on this bike, they're pretty good. And then the chassis, a lot of people were complaining that the MT-07 was as bad as the MT-09 chassis wise, that it was like rubber, but no, I believe this one is pretty stiff, and it can handle some damage, right, if you want to be riding really hard. So the new MT-07, they changed the chassis, and it's supposed to be better. I haven't ridden it hard. I've just ridden the XSR 900 in a demo, so I can't really talk about that, but it does feel stiffer. But this one is pretty stiff. You don't really have an issue with the chassis, unless you're like a professional rider. I think this one is enough for me, chassis wise and brake wise. The brakes are, well, from the 3 bikes that I have, this one has the best brakes. Not to say that they're like the best brakes that you can have, but this Brembo master cylinder that you see here, it's a good one, because you can put just one finger and you're gonna start feeling it. Usually I use just 2 fingers on this one. It has great feel, but it also has a lot of bite. So yeah, you can really trust the brakes. So that way, when you're commuting, what you can do on this bike is you can ride a little bit harder. It's like riding a go-kart to work. It's so much fun. It has this peppy engine. You can just use it, and it's gonna have a whole bunch of usable power. Now the engine on the R7 is the same one as the MT-07. It's supposed to be tuned a little bit different, but I think it's the exact same engine. Now this engine, this platform, the CP2, 689 cc's, inline cross-plane crank. It's just great. Maybe not as great as the V-twin on the SB650, but almost. And what I was saying is that you can go closer on the cars, and you know you can trust these brakes, and you can also maneuver. This bike is not very heavy, so you can maneuver and get out of trouble, right? So as I said, it's like riding a go-kart to work every day, but in 2 wheels. It makes it so much more fun. So when it comes to riding to work, commuting, very few bikes are going to be as fun as this one. That engine is going to respond very quickly when you're going slow. And even though that engine has only 72 horsepower, depending on who you ask, when I first bought this bike, I thought it had more power, because I saw somebody from India or someplace claiming that it had 89 horsepower. So I thought, oh, that's gonna be fine. But then I read it had 72. I was a little disappointed. But you really don't miss it on the daily commute. You're only gonna miss it when on the top end, when you're going really fast. But from 0 to 100, this bike is gonna be plenty fast. You don't need anything faster than the R7 for the street. On the Twisties, you do miss it a little bit, but as I said, not on the daily commute. What this bike is like a little confused is that the sporty ergonomics. When I first bought it, I hated it because it was so uncomfortable, and I usually ride my bike, especially on the weekends, for more than 2 hours. We do long trips, 200 miles, 300 miles. And this one, I could not handle it. It was just terrible. It was hurting my, especially my wrists. but it was just too much. After I got used to it, it's not that bad, because you're just using muscles you were never not used to using. But now that I know how to ride the bike a little bit more, I use more of my legs and not as much of my wrists. It's not that terrible. But still, for daily commuting, well, something like the RS660 makes a little bit more sense with the upright ergonomics. This one is just a little bit too compromised. It's just too aggressive on the stance, so it's a little bit weird. It's not that powerful, not that fast, so why make it like a track weapon? But when you're hitting, as I said, you're hitting twisties, you understand the ergonomics. You have so much fun as well. Now this bike is very thin all the way, so you can actually go in between traffic easier than you could on a different bike, even a naked bike, just because of the way this bike is has a small engine. So they build everything around that small engine, so you have a very narrow bike. Let's see if we can get into the tollway without any major incidents. There we go. So, a lot of traffic today. It is Monday, so usually you get more traffic on a Monday for some reason, and you also get a lot of traffic on Friday. That's how Houston traffic works. Pretty weird. Now, another thing about the ergonomics of this bike, it is very narrow, and it has the seat that it's a little bit hard. Not as hard as other Yamahas, but it is a Yamaha, so it is hard. It has a hard seat, but it's pretty long, so you can maneuver inside, right? If you want to tuck in, put your butt down or back and just tuck in, and you got plenty of room. And then you want to go side to side. It gives you all those options, so that's why it's not that uncomfortable. When you are riding this bike for hours, well, you can use different positions. For example, right now you're commuting, you're just having a cruising, you're at a cruising speed. All you can do is, well, just put your crotch up all the way to the front, get your head high, let the wind hit you, and that way, well, you're not using that much of your weight on your wrists. What this bike really needs is cruise control. That way you can rest this hand a little bit more, and without having to, well, use the clutch or do something different. Because, yeah, as I said, it's great for commuting. Okay, what else? So the tires on this bike. The bike came originally with the Bridgestone S22s, I believe, which is the same, the exact same brand and tire that came on the GSX S750. So I'm very familiar now with those tires. I've had 3 or 4 sets. Now those are great tires, especially if you want to ride a little bit hard, but they don't last. From my experience, 2,000, 3,000 miles of heavy riding, and that's gonna be it. So I switched them when I had to switch those. I bought the Michelin Power 5s, and I did it on both the 750 and this one, and man, am I happy with those. I felt sad when I had to trade in the 750 for the 1000 because of those tires. They were almost brand new, but I still have them on this one, and believe me, they're the best tires, I believe, for these type of middleweight, sportier bikes, because supposedly they don't have the same grip as the S22s. I don't know, I feel more confident because they're comfortable. comfort level on a tire is also important, and the way they're shaped, I don't know, you can just feel very, what's the word? Very, very, very. So the way the bike drops with those tires is very predictable. That's the word I'm looking for. It's very predictable. So just because of the shape, and it does, and from my experience, they're stickier. Or maybe it's just the confidence that you get from them. But they're very comfortable and they're very, very predictable. So you can ride and put them on the side of the tire. And as opposed to the S22s, the Power 5s, what they do is they're great in the rain. When it rains, you really feel comfortable riding those tires. The S22s were good in the rain. They were not as sporty as some other tires that I bought, like the Dunlop SQ something, I forgot. But yeah, these tires are great for this bike. But if you want to keep these stocks and continue using those, it's not bad. You can, you're just gonna have to buy more frequently. So another thing about this motorcycle is that it's a little bit short from the seat all the way to the cockpit and the windscreen, so you feel like you don't fit. And I'm not a big guy. I'm 5'8", 5 feet 8, and I feel like I don't know, like I'm so crumbled up here, and I have to go back in order for me to actually fit on this bike. So yeah, that's another thing. If you're a big fellow, you want to try this bike out before you buy. I wouldn't recommend this one for anybody with a larger than 5'8". Another thing is the cockpit is also very small and it gets blocked. Right now I'm blocking it with my camera here, my little Dragon Touch, but these cables also get in the way of the dash. Now the dash is another thing that it could be improved. I know it's a budget bike, that's what they call it, but still, it's $9,000. It's not that budget, especially if you start checking the new competition like the new Honda and the Triumph. They have much better looking dashes. This one is not bad. It has the information that you need, but it's too old school. And if you're going to keep it old school, I would rather have, as I discussed earlier on a different video, I would rather have a tachometer that is analog than just the information that I need on a little digital thing next to it. This dash is not really good for me. I really don't like it. Another thing I didn't discuss in the other videos, but mirrors. Mirrors are good on this bike. I really like the way you can actually see behind you. And funny thing is, usually when you change positions in a bike, you're not able to see. And on this one, you can change positions up, down, front, back, and you can still see plenty of what's behind you. You do get a lot of shot of your elbows, but it's fine as long as you can see what's behind you. I still do the whole check when I change lanes, because here in Houston I've had a couple of scares where people are behind you that you didn't really notice. You start changing lanes and whoop, there he is, somebody's there. So make sure that you're always checking on your blind spots, guys. It's important, I believe. Alright, another thing that is very good about this bike, and that's why it makes it a very good commuter, is gas mileage. This little engine that they use, Yamaha uses it on different platforms, and it's just, you know, it's going to be reliable. The gas mileage that you get on this bike is pretty impressive. Although it has a very small tank, so you're going to be frequenting the gas station just as much as on a bigger bike. But not going to be as expensive, so that's good. Now this bike, another thing that it has is all these fairings, they're very clean and neat, like in their design, so that makes it very easy to clean. All you need is to wipe them down. And the color that is blue, because I wanted the black one. I have all my bikes black. I don't know, there's something about a black bike. But this one, especially now with all the pollen in the air, the black bikes, well, they look terrible. And this one, you can barely see it. You can barely notice it. Unless you get really close to it, then yes, you see that it's full of pollen. But yeah, this bike, I mean, once you get a little bit of Monica in my, a little bit of what? I forgot what I was gonna say, but it's a fun bike, a fun little bike. And when I say little, it's just because you feel little on it, but it's not a slow bike. Whenever people compare it to different bikes like the RS660, it's like it's not fair. The RS660 is, I mean, the out-the-door price is going to be closer to what I paid for my Suzuki 1000. So this bike is going to compete more with the likes of the naked bikes like the Triumph, Trident, or the GSXS 750, and when we're talking about price. So there are no other sport bikes in this category. So that's another thing. I'm ready to trade in this bike, but there's nothing that is gonna be better than the R7 price-wise. So I have to go up in price, and I don't want that. I want to keep my payments. Right now I'm paying $190 each month, so not bad for a bike of this characteristic. Forgot to downshift on that one, so that was pretty terrible driving, but still yeah. So if anybody knows of a bike that would be comparable, full fair sport bike that you can pay $190 a month for, let me know, and I'm pretty sure I will consider. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to be waiting. I'm going to keep this bike until either Yamaha comes up with the R9, which they keep saying they will, or KTM comes up with an RC8C for the street that has a regular price. Because I'm looking at the XSR 900, which I love it, and I'm looking at the Duke 890R, I also love. So those are very good options, but why would I need two naked bikes? I already have my Suzuki. So Suzuki is my naked bike. I'm looking for another sport bike. So if nothing happens before I finish paying off this one, well, then I would have to go all the way to a liter bike. Because there's nothing, as I said, nothing as fun, nothing as good, nothing as good looking, right, than the little R7. And another thing that is good about this motorcycle is the if you go to Wild West Motorsports, the service there is very affordable. And even if you don't have a Wild West Motorsports in your area, and what you can do is you use your Yamaha credit card in case the services come in when you're strapped for cash, right? If you're struggling, well, that's what that card is for. So you can use it's not the greatest idea to keep using it because, well, then your payments go up. But if you just you say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to be paid in a couple of weeks, and now I have to the service is up, well, use the Yamaha and then pay off whatever service is in those 2 weeks. That way you don't have to wait, and you don't have to be keep riding the bike without servicing it when it's supposed to. Now, you know it's a Yamaha, you know it's going to be reliable, but it's always important to keep your services when the manual says that they need, especially just oil change and the filter change. Everything else, all the so that's another good thing about the dealer, Wild West Motorsports. They're not going to force you to do all the things that they say they need to check, because a lot of the times all these manuals are going to give you all these things they need to check. So if you want to check them, go ahead and check them, but most of the time you're going to feel those things when you're riding. So yeah, if there's something wrong with the bike, you're going to feel it. Alright, let's see. Traffic is pretty terrible. We're going to have to do a Chilango style for now. And I did see a motorcycle cup up front, so I don't know if he's going to be helping me out or not. So it's one of those things about Houston, it's the traffic. So one of the things that I'm going to have to find for our daily commute is some twists, because this is the only turn you get in the whole commute, and as you can see, it's filled with traffic, so there's nothing much you can do about it. So there's no way that you can actually test any motorcycle on this commute except for the commute. So that's why I use different footage from a different day when I'm on the Twisties. Otherwise, you don't get to see how these motorcycles handle except on heavy traffic, because that's what you get in Houston. Okay guys, well that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting the channel. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Make sure to subscribe and to send it to all your friends. Remember, if you did not like the video, well, send it to all your enemies, and I'll see you guys on the next one.